Today, we're talking about a future that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but it is happening right now. It's a future that's going to completely change how we think about our planet, our time, and maybe even ourselves. So let me just throw this at you. What if you could get from Tokyo to LA in 32 minutes? I mean, seriously, a flight that takes half a day crammed into less time than it takes to order a pizza. It sounds totally nuts, right? Well, stick around because this isn't fantasy. It's the next great leap in how we get around. To really wrap our heads around this, we gotta meet the people who are actually building this future. Our guide today is a man named Taichi. Now, he's not your typical government astronaut. He's part of this new wave of pioneers called private astronauts. And here's the key difference, right? We're all used to thinking of astronauts funded by us, the taxpayers, going up for big national science missions. But private astronauts, they're in a whole different game. It's commercial. Taichi has a great analogy for it. If a government astronaut is like a military pilot on a mission, a private astronaut is like a commercial airline pilot. Their job is to fly customers. You know, speaking of pilots, you probably wouldn't guess that from his flight suit. It's covered in these amazing paint splatters, and people always think he's an artist, but it's actually his training suit. An artist friend of his custom painted it. It's just a perfect little symbol for what this whole new era is about. This cool mix of art, science, and a whole lot of personality. So, how in the world does someone even get a job like this? Well, for Taichi, it wasn't about growing up in some high-tech lab. It started way, way simpler than that. It started with a childhood dream on a certain ringed planet.
See, when he was a kid, his family couldn't just go out and buy a telescope. No way. But that didn't stop him. He found a book that showed him how to build one from scratch, and that's exactly what he did. He built his own little window to the stars.
And, one night, through that homemade telescope, he saw it. He saw Saturn. And he said it just blew his mind. The rings didn't look like a picture. They looked real, three-dimensional. And in that one moment, he knew. He just knew he had to go there someday. That was the spark.
Okay, so you go from that kid with a homemade telescope to actually flying in space. How does that happen? Well, it starts with getting used to one of the weirdest things about space, being weightless. And trust me, the way they practice that here on Earth is probably the exact opposite of what you're thinking.
Right, so most of us, when we think of that weightless feeling, we think of a roller coaster drop, right? A plane diving super fast. But that's not it at all. In fact, to get real microgravity, you don't go down, you go up. Here's how it works. A jet just rockets upwards, super steep. Then, right at the top of the arc, the pilot basically cuts the engines. The plane keeps coasting up from pure momentum. And for about 20 or 25 seconds, everything inside and everyone is literally just falling together. You're floating in a perfect state of free fall inside the plane. It's wild. And here's the part that's just so cool. This isn't just for astronauts anymore. It's for us. It's open to the public. Taichi's own daughter did it when she was just 10 years old, making her the youngest person in the world to experience it. People propose in zero-G. They've had dance parties. Get this. The CEO of a paper company rode a giant origami crane while floating. I mean, how amazing is that? But look, this 25-second float is way more than just a joyride. It's actually a mini demonstration of the physics that makes all of this possible. So now, imagine taking that idea and scaling it way, way up. Instead of just going up and down, you use that same incredible power to launch yourself clear across the planet. And that is where the revolution really begins. 32 minutes. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The estimated time to get from Tokyo to Los Angeles using SpaceX's Starship. It launches, flies just outside the atmosphere, and lands on the other side of the world. Just like that. And to do that, it has to reach this absolutely mind-melting speed of 27,000 kilometers an hour. By flying up where there's almost no air, it avoids all that friction that slows down regular planes, letting it hit speeds that are just impossible down here. But okay, here it is. This is the single most insane, game-changing part of this whole thing. The goal, the honest-to-goodness plan, is to make a ticket on one of these flights cost about the same as a regular, full-fare economy ticket today. This isn't just for the super rich. This is designed to be mass transit for everyone. I mean, just look at this timeline. We went from measuring travel in months on a ship, to days on an ocean liner, to hours on a jet. Each step was a huge deal. But this next one, from hours to minutes, that's not just the next step, it's a whole new reality.
And don't picture some tiny little astronaut capsule. No, we're talking about a vehicle that, when it's set up for these Earth-to-Earth trips, could carry up to 500 people. That's about the same as the old Boeing 747, the jumbo jet that made international travel affordable for a whole generation. This is the sequel.
So let's just take a step back and think about what this really means. Because when you shrink the world this much, it changes everything. This is so much bigger than just a faster commute.
Just think about it for a second. A business trip to another continent is now a day trip. The whole idea of passports and national borders starts to feel, well, kind of old-fashioned when any major city is basically in your neighborhood. This technology could literally start to blur the lines we've drawn all over the map, creating one single global community, where we stop thinking of ourselves as just citizens of a country and start seeing ourselves as, Earthlings.
And that leaves us with this one final massive question to chew on. If any city on the planet is just 30 minutes away, what does it even mean to be from one country anymore? What does that future look like?